Bienvenue, benvenuti, and welcome to Expatriotical, the podcast for expats, travelers, and other adventurous souls. I'm Chandra Ali, and after living as an expat with my husband and 4 children in 2 different countries for 6 years, I've learned the arts of pivoting during pitfalls, traveling tastefully for less, and soaking in amazing new cultures without losing your own. Join me as we dive into the joys and challenges of travel and the expat life in every episode. Hey everybody, wherever this episode finds you in your week, I hope that it's been a good one so far. You may have noticed the slightly strange name of this episode. TOES is the abbreviation, which stands for Types of Expats. I wanted to give this interview series its own name so that as you see the name TOES, you already automatically know that this is an interview connected to me diving into the different types of lifestyles that different types of expats have. I really hope to be able to do at least one of these interviews per month, and we may not get to explore all 8 types that I've identified, and I will admit that there are probably other types of expats, but if you refer back to episode 30, the 8 different types of expats, that is how many I was able to come up with. Also, there may be a few people that are speaking on behalf of 2 different types because they've done that lifestyle or lived as an expat in both of those different ways. It's like a 2-for-1 deal. Anyway, that is the interview series that we're going to be kicking off today, and I'm super excited to get to my interview with my first guest of the Types of Expats or TOES series. Her name is Regan Schnoell, and she is going to be speaking from the perspective of being a government-sponsored expat. But she has a very unique perspective as she is the wife of a former ambassador. So I thought this would be fun because though there are plenty of government-sponsored expats, not everybody is a diplomat, and more specifically, not everybody is an ambassador. She has so many wonderful and inspiring stories to share with us, and I can't wait for you to hear them. So listen in. Okay, well, everybody, today we are kicking off the first of a series. We're probably going to have one once a month of interviews that I do with the 8, though there may be more, but that's what I could come up with, different types of expats. And I have my friend here, Regan Schnoell. Did I say that right?
Schnoell.
Schnoell,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she's going to be here to talk about the government-sponsored type of expat. Welcome, Regan. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. All right. So we're going to jump in, and I've got lots of questions for you. But first, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you are from and what you do and that sort of thing?
Sure. I'm born and raised in Chicago, and I am a teacher. I taught for 14 years in Chicago at 3 different schools. 10 years was the longest and the last school before I moved out of the States. And then after I moved away to Europe, I started a private tutoring practice.
Okay.
Which actually I was doing before in America, but I eliminated the classroom teaching and just focused on that because when you're married to a diplomat, you move a lot and it's hard to commit to like a regular, steady gig, let's say.
That makes sense.
Especially when young kids are involved and you don't want to have to leave in the middle of the year. And
it's hard.
At least for me, I didn't feel right doing that. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So born and raised in Chicago.
Yes.
And while you were living there teaching, I love that because you'll be like, oh, just like a kindergarten teacher minding your own business.
Oh, yeah.
What happened when you were there?
So it's kind of a funny story. Yeah. Well, it's sad, but not funny. Kind of an ironic story of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
No.
But it's like I'm aging myself probably a bit too much, but it's makes you realize like how one thing in your life what's the word I want? Like snowballed and completely changed the direction your life was going.
Really?
How one life event can change everything for you.
Wow.
And for me, that was my mom's passing.
Okay.
And her dear friend stepped up kind of as a mother figure to me when my mom passed away. And I was teaching kindergarten at the time when all of this happened. And she invited me to go to a brunch with her at Arlington Racetrack, which is now closed. But it's kind of like, if you've heard of the Kentucky Derby, it's loosely like the Kentucky Derby, but in Chicago, but not anywhere to that level.
Got it.
And I didn't really want to go. And she said, well, there's going to be the Austrian Consul General there. And I think you should meet him. I don't know what his situation is, but he's very handsome and you should just come to the brunch. And then she came over and she said, wear this dress, go get your hair blown out and put some makeup on, and you're coming to this whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Okay. So fast forward, the day the brunch comes, and we were seated across from each other at the table, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That is
so
crazy.
what happened is I didn't know really what a diplomat was. I did kind of know what Austria was, but not, kind of had to research it a little bit.
Yeah.
I knew they spoke German in Austria. I knew kangaroos didn't live in Austria. And, I was a bit like, what's this guy's story? The whole thing was a bit sketch to me.
Yeah.
So then it wasn't Google back then. I don't know what it was, but we searched on Yahoo or whatever.
Yeah.
And my friend and I discovered that we had the same birthday. And so,
you and the Consul General.
yeah, who's now my husband.
Yes, but
Yes.
sorry, I hope I wasn't giving that out.
Oh,
But yeah.
sorry. Okay. So,
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
she's
that.
like, Regan, you guys, not the same year. He's a few years older.
Yeah,
Just
but-
a few. And she's like, Regan, you guys have the same birthday. You have to go out on at least one date, just see what happens.
That is crazy.
And then 7 months later, we were engaged.
Oh
So
my
I always say I was minding my own business teaching kindergarten. I always just thought I'd end up in the suburbs of Chicago, living your typical American dream type of lifestyle till
Yeah.
this dashing diplomat came across my path. And I always say, the roller coaster ride comes along. You can either hop on and go for the ride or turn away and walk away. And I decided to hop on. So
here you are.
here I am.
That's amazing. Okay. So you basically had explained to me, and please forgive me and correct me if I said this, if I'm misspeaking this, but basically a consul general is an ambassador, but you can't have that exact title unless you're in the capital of the country. So he does the same thing. He's just in a different city.
More or less, the proper term would be that he's head of mission.
Head of
so
mission.
head of mission, which you also are when you're ambassador. So the
Okay.
Consul General of Chicago is like the head of the mission from Austria to Chicago.
Okay.
But as Chicago is not the capital of the United
Yeah.
States, and there are rankings,
Sure.
some postings are, way higher level and some are, in the middle. And, but he was quite young to become head of mission.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't understand any of this either when we met. And so that's why one is called a consul general when you're not in the capital of a country.
Okay. Got it. So you guys got engaged 7 months after your first date. And then year and a half or so later, you got married. Is that right? Is
Yep.
that about right?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then what happened next?
So we were still in Chicago. He still had 2 years left for his posting.
Okay.
So I stopped working because my husband has a daughter, and she initiated the request to come and live with us for a year in Chicago.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I stopped working. I just did tutoring, and she came and lived with us for a year in Chicago and went to the Lycée Français because she's French.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's busy. He has a busy job. You've got all sorts of social, political events. There's not really a dull moment. So between being a stepmom and attending his events and my work and my friends. You know, I had a whole life there. My family, cousins, best friends, girl
Everything.
gang, the whole thing. So between all of that, like we just kept busy. And then when you're married to a diplomat, your life is sort of divided in 3 stages. It's where you're about to move and getting prepared to move.
Yeah.
Then the discussion of where you might move.
Okay.
And then once that's assigned, planning for that impending move.
Yeah.
So your whole life, I always say you're sort of a little bit like pawns in a chess game where the government sort of
moves you around.
Will the Schnoells go here? Will the Schnoells go there? And of course, you have a say in it. But so during that 2 years, it's all about where are we heading next? Where are we heading next? Where are we heading next?
Okay. And so you have you and Thomas and then your stepdaughter who was how old at that time?
11, 10 and 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you're living there in Chicago, planning for the next move. And had you ever lived abroad at that point?
Never.
Okay. So
never was even on my radar.
When you got the assignment, I mean, were you ready for?
Well, I knew marrying Thomas meant that I would leave.
Okay.
And that it would mean a life abroad anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So I went into that with open eyes.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I really understood what that meant in practical terms.
Oh my gosh. I thank you so much. We could have a whole podcast issue about this, about you have this awareness, but until you start to experience it, you have head knowledge, but you really don't understand. You really,
and nothing
really
can
don't.
really prepare you for
Nothing
it till
can.
you do it.
It's like parenthood. Like you could read
bit.
all the books, you could watch all the other parents and
Right.
babysit, but like you don't get it until you do it.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's
So, and my perspective at that time, especially during the 14 months that we'd met and were engaged, was, I mean, wild horses couldn't have driven me away from my husband. And it was like, well, wherever you go, I go. And,
That's
you know,
just
as long as we're
ridiculously
together.
sweet.
And now I'm like, oh, God, what was I thinking? No, I'm kidding. But it's not as easy as that. In reality, especially when kids enter the factor and aging parents enter the picture, which I didn't think of it. I didn't think of what it would be like to raise children away from all my people.
Yeah.
That's something I couldn't have even remotely predicted. It's nothing with Thomas. It's just like all of the unexpected things that came from living abroad.
Yeah, of course.
That I didn't even think about. So,
yeah. So also I hope you don't mind if I throw in that you are I don't know if it's on both of your sides, but Greek. And so family culture is like super duper important. So I just wanted to throw that out, that like, it's not like, oh yeah, like I was going to miss like my brother, or, you know,
no.
It's
yeah.
a big
I
part of your
left
culture.
behind my big fat Greek family.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm half Greek, half Irish, but raised more Greek. But
yeah,
I left behind both sides, my mom and my dad, very close with both of them. My cousins, I have 7. No, how many first cousins do I have? 17? I don't know. They'll correct me.
Cow.
I have a lot. That might be too much. No, 11? I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot. That's a lot. I have one
between both sides.
I have one first cousin on my mom's side.
Yeah.
It's not very big. Okay, so where were you sent when you moved abroad?
Tirana, Albania.
Okay, I have no idea where that is. But
well, we joked that my husband was bringing me back closer to my homeland of Greece, right?
Okay, there you go.
I mean, I wasn't born in Greece. I'm second generation.
Yeah.
But it's just north of Greece.
Okay, got it. Just north. Wow, that's really cool. Okay, so how did the transition then go for you? Like literally actually in 2 parts. The move itself, like did the Austrian government like pretty much pack everything up and take care of things for you? But then also transitioning into living in Albania.
Well, I have to tell you a bit about Albania to really answer that question.
Okay.
So Albania was confined to a dictatorship and communism until 1997.
Whoa.
And Thomas visited there when he was working in Austria. I think he was there for work before we met back in, the late 1990s, and saw what the state of Albania was when the dictatorship ended, and it first became, a free country, a democracy. So fast forward to when we moved there, and we're in the car back from the airport, and he's looking out the window going, I can't believe how much it's progressed in the time since,
Great.
you know, and I'm looking out the window going, what has he gotten me into? Because I had never seen it before.
Yeah.
And I love to tell the story of we had dinner early on in our posting at the residence of the Italian ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know, when you find out you've been posted to Albania, you have tears in the eyes. And then when you find out it's time for you to leave, you have tears in the eyes again.
Oh.
And it couldn't be more true.
Oh,
we
wow.
love Albania. It's like our other culture. We're very connected to it.
That's awesome.
We loved it. Yes.
I think that's really, I don't know. I think that's a very significant thing to say. And I know that this isn't going to happen to every person the first time they move abroad or the second or whatever. But like, I definitely feel the same. And maybe it's because my youngest child was born there, but I feel that way with Italian culture. Like there's just something, it's like I left a piece of me there. And so there's always like that connection. So
absolutely.
I really love that. Okay. So government of Austria helped you guys transition and all that sort of thing.
I don't know about transition, but they organized the move.
Okay. They organized the move.
I'm just sort of thrown to the wolves.
Oh yeah, that's another good point. But like they organized the move, got your stuff over, and then how about for example, like this is more of a question about like, and I'm sure every government is different, but like from the diplomatic side, you know, did they also, if you wanted to go back to Austria, I'm assuming that's what they would consider like your home country, since he is the.
Do you mean for work?
No, for like a home leave trip, if you will. Like I know that not all.
Yeah, they do
pay
that
for
every other year.
Every other year, and see, like that's an interesting thing. I'm finding as I talk to different government employees of different governments of like some positions get no home leave trips. So that means when they move abroad, if they want to go home, it's on their their time. Or for you guys every other year, you know, or that sort of thing.
But Albania and Austria, we drove it sometimes.
Really? How far was that?
1,000 kilammeters.
Okay, so about 500 miles.
But we got lost in the mountains of Macedonia, and that was terrible. No, where were we? No, not Macedonia, Montenegro. That was the most beautiful thing, the most terrifying experience
at the same
of my
time.
life. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Literally in the middle of mountains with nothing around but sheep, and we had no idea where we were. And if my husband had taken like one wrong move, off a cliff into the sea. It was terrifying. Yeah. Oh we basically ended up like going all the way around a mountain instead of. But once we figured it out, we drove a few times actually. And it was a beautiful drive. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. The adventures that you have. That you never thought you would. That's awesome. Okay. So while you were living in Albania, did your family start to grow?
Well, yes.
Yes. Would you like to share more about that? I had written out the question a different way and I know it was incorrect. So anyways.
Yes. Well, we had always intended on growing our family. And I don't know like how much I want to get into, but it was a challenge.
Yes.
Back in America. And at one point we decided to change course and look into adoption.
Okay.
So we started the adoption process in America. It's very thorough, as you can imagine. You have to take classes, home visits, questionnaires. It's quite in-depth. And so we had done pretty much all of the classes and everything required of us. And then we found out we were leaving America. So it didn't make sense to continue to explore adopting from America. So then we went to Austria because, of course, as Thomas being an Austrian citizen, and the Austrian government accepted some of the coursework that we had already done in America.
Okay.
But then we also had to, of course, repeat some of the same process that we'd done in America, home visits, interviews, things like this. So we did that, and basically when we moved to Albania, we were on the list waiting for our phone to ring that there was a baby for us in Austria.
Okay.
So sort of in our mind, our baby was in Austria, but we knew adoption is not really that common in Austria.
Okay.
I think the year that we had gone through the process, In Vienna alone, there were like 17 adoptions in 1 year.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea of how limited it is. And of course, a never-ending list.
Yeah.
So we were told it could take up to 5 years before we would get that phone call. So when we moved to Albania, we were just living our lives waiting for the phone to ring, basically, in Austria.
And then when did you get that call?
We never got the call from Austria.
Exactly. So waiting and waiting, is that what made you change courses and decide to look into adopting in Albania?
We didn't look into adopting in Albania. It fell into our laps, sort of.
Really?
In a way.
Really? Okay.
Should I give you the backstory?
Tell us more, please.
Okay. So when I received my master's degree in early childhood development in Chicago.
Okay.
And that with a specialization in infancy, which focused on 0 to 3 work.
Okay.
So fast forward to Albania, I became friends and still am friends with the wife of the then U.S. ambassador posted to Albania.
Okay.
And she had formed a committee along with the Albanian authorities to help Albania change its adoption process and adoption laws, which were quite archaic. Okay. And of course, they were closed off country for so long that all of this was sort of new to them as well. And basically what was happening in Albania is babies were aging out in orphanages because of some of the laws that were in place. And so she was working with the authorities in Albania to try to change these laws. And then when she found out that I had a master's in early childhood development, she asked if I would be willing to be on the committee.
Okay.
So I said yes, but at full transparency, we're actually waiting to adopt ourselves. So I don't know if that causes a conflict of interest.
Sure, of course.
So we discussed it with the Albanian authorities, and everybody said no problem for us. So I joined this committee wearing the hat of the early childhood development specialist to try to explain to the Albanian authorities what's happening to an institutionalized child and brain development.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
And why it is so important to get babies placed into homes sooner rather than later, while still respecting the biological connection between mother and child.
Of course.
Very delicate situation, of course. So with this committee, there was about 5 or 6 American women all playing different roles. So there was a social worker. I don't remember all of the roles. And of course, the head of the adoption committee from Albania was also on this committee.
Okay.
And we formed, the American women, we all formed a group that was going to the orphanages in Albania once or twice a week to volunteer and to donate items, to bring toys, to hold babies, to feed babies. So I was one of those women. So I was going twice a week to an orphanage or children's home in Albania. And a psychologist had recommended to us that when we go, that we should always hold the same baby, because it's better for a baby to attach and lose the attachment than never attach at all.
Oh, okay.
And so that at least this way, instead of baby being passed caregiver to caregiver to caregiver to caregiver, you know,
there's
always hold the same baby.
Okay.
You know, even if it's only twice a week for a couple of hours.
Okay.
So the first time we went, we just sort of all went and just grabbed a baby. And every time we went, we grabbed our same child.
Yeah.
So fast forward, and in the meantime, I'm completely separated my waiting for a phone call in Austria from these babies. Some of these babies weren't even available for adoption.
Okay.
I had compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Probably for my own emotional protection.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it never crossed my mind that one of those babies could ever be my baby. Literally never crossed my mind.
Amazing.
So fast forward, we had a meeting at the embassy for working on this adoption law process. And at the end of the meeting, I'm chatting with the head of the adoption committee, the Albanian authority. And he mentions to me, "Oh, you're volunteering at such and such children's home." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I just got the file on my desk for one of the babies. She's become available to be placed for adoption." That's something I want to touch on that's really important to me. Is it's only semantics, but it's really important. A lot of people use the term a baby's been given up for adoption.
Yeah.
And really the right terminology is placed for adoption.
Okay.
Because a lot of the biological parents who are choosing to do this, they're not really giving up their babies. They're really trying to place them to put them in a better opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's a really important distinction to make. Yeah, exactly. So he says, "Oh, I just got the file." I said, "Oh, which baby?" And he said the baby's name. And I guess I know I reacted. I facially, I had a reaction. He said, "Do you know the baby?" I said, "That's the baby that I hold every time I go there."
I have chills from my head to my toes right now. That's insane. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
it's like meant to be. Like that's just from my personal perspective, it was like God just being like, boop, there you go. Anyways, wow. Oh my goodness.
He looked at me and he said, "Are you sure you want to wait for Austria?" And I said, "Well, would it be possible to adopt in Albania?" And he said, "Yeah, of course it's possible."
Okay.
So I was like, "Let me talk to my husband."
Amazing.
And several months later, we brought home our baby girl.
Oh my goodness. I still have the chills. That was like a crazy tingling sensation as the story kept building. I was like, no, it's not the same baby. And it was.
It was.
Amazing.
It was.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we always say we came to Albania as a couple, but we left as a family.
I love
And we
that.
brought a true piece of Albania home with us and the most beautiful girl.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. So how long were you there in Albania as a family, or did you, how long was the posting, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
It was supposed to be 4 years. It ended up being 2.
Oh, it was short.
Welcome to diplomatic life.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
When somebody very important in Austria called my husband after he had made an official visit to Albania, and actually was the foreign minister of Austria, the then foreign minister, and asked if Thomas would be his speaker for the foreign ministry. Okay. And when the foreign minister asks you to come home and be the speaker, then you go home and you become the speaker.
There you go.
So that's why we left early.
Okay. So from Albania to Austria. And
then we were in Vienna.
And how long were you guys there for?
We were in Vienna for a year while my husband is from Salzburg, and that's where his entire family is. So we were blessed enough to inherit the land from his parents and his brothers. And so we built a house in Salzburg. But while it was being built, we were living in Vienna. But then once it was built, our daughter and I moved to Salzburg, and my husband commuted Vienna, Salzburg.
How far is that?
It's 2.5 hours. So Monday through Friday, he was at work, and then he'd come home late Friday and leave early Monday morning.
Okay. So that's another thing. I mean, again, to point out, like, the life of a diplomat is like it's on. And not that you don't have any time for family, but
no, but I felt very isolated in Vienna. I was alone with a small baby. I had no support system there. My husband was working insane hours, and we were in a government issued apartment. And I felt like, I have this whole support system back home in Salzburg. My husband has a wonderful, huge family. We all live within a kilometer of each other.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, we just decided that was really what was best for myself and our daughter. And it worked out.
Got it. Okay. So you were in Vienna for a year, then you moved to Salzburg. And then how long were you in Salzburg for? I mean, and then obviously with Thomas working.
Again, not as long as we were supposed to be.
Oh my goodness. It just keeps going.
We've basically moved every 2 to 3 years since we've been together.
And where was the next place? Paris. Okay.
Paris.
Okay, great. So, but somebody else arrived. Am I right? When you were in Paris, or when you were in Salzburg?
Yes, our second daughter.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
So a family.
Well, his third daughter. Our second.
So total family of 5, but
definitely family of 5.
Yeah, total family, definitely a family of 5. And then you moved to Paris, and then you said that your stepdaughter is French. So does that mean that then she was here with you all. Is that right?
Well, she's an adult now.
Oh, yes.
And
right.
so she was in university
already
by the time we moved here.
Got it. Okay. All right. So she was in university.
But she was in France, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yes.
Awesome. So you came here. How old was your second daughter when you
9
arrived?
months.
9 months.
I was still breastfeeding when we moved here.
Oh, the joys. Yeah. So you had, two daughters, ages. What? How old?
Then 9 months and 5.
5.
Yeah.
9 months and 5 years old.
They're 4.5 years apart.
Okay. Arriving here in Paris. And at this point, you have, like, currently, right now, today, in January 2025, you have been here for what? Like
6 years.
Yeah. I was going to say 5 or 6 years. Okay. Great. And how would you say, so with all of those moves, what has been the most difficult one for you so far? Sorry, unexpected question. It's not even on my list.
I have to say when we had to move Salzburg to Paris because we had just built the house.
Yeah.
We were nesting. We had just had our baby. I was just loving, mothering and, we had our beautiful life in beautiful Salzburg and it was really hard to come to Paris. I'm not a city person, so I'm a city person. I grew up in the city, and I'm not a city person.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about it. What's your next adventure?
Yes. So our next adventure has already begun.
Okay.
Thomas has taken a position now, still working where he currently works, but representing that organization in New York.
Okay.
Working directly with the United Nations. So it was an opportunity that professionally he was really eager to do. So he has already moved to New York. We did not want to pull the girls out of school in the middle of the school year.
Yeah.
So we're staying here for the next 6 months. And when this all came about, I said, well, honestly, I cannot be in America and not be near my dad.
Yeah.
And I would just be going there like every weekend anyway. So then I said, what if the girls and I go to Florida?
Yeah.
And Florida has always been our long-term plan.
Anyway.
Yeah. And now I know my husband well enough that like lots of changes happen in his career. Yeah. So New York is supposed to last X amount of years, but
who knows?
Who knows? Now I know to say it's probably not going to go as planned.
Yeah.
So we are trying to spare our daughters being uprooted into another transition again.
Yeah.
If we were to go to New York with him. Okay. So we'll go to Florida and he will commute much like we did Salzburg, Vienna.
Yeah. Something you've already done.
Something I've already done. The kids are older now, which helps. And, this way, I'll be able to look after my dad on a daily basis, which I'm super excited about.
That's awesome.
And excited not to have to deal with winter anymore. I'm not going to lie.
It snowed there, though. It just snowed there.
Way up north. Okay. Not where we will be living. No. But it was chilly, even for the standards of where we're like as far south as you can go, almost in Florida.
Got it.
And I've been going to Florida since I was a teenager.
Okay.
So I already have and this is what I think is an important part. Like if I've gone to New York, I mean, I'm starting again really all over from scratch. When I go to Florida, I already have a network. I know my way around.
Yeah.
I have doctors. It's taking a lot of the mystery out of it. And also for our daughters, because every time we go to America, we pretty much have gone to Florida because the priority is always to spend time with my dad, their grandfather.
Yeah.
So they know it. It's not totally foreign to them, where New York would be totally foreign to them. So for us, for our family, it was the right decision.
Got it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you 3 questions that
Sure.
I normally ask all of the people that come on the podcast.
Okay.
And the first one is, what is your favorite thing about being an expatriate?
Probably just discovering different history, culture, broadening my horizons, broadening my perspective on things I thought I knew, but I really didn't. probably that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. So, this is more personal. So just share what you feel, comfortable sharing. What is a treasured memory that has happened during your time as an expat?
A treasured memory, aside from becoming a family in Albania.
Yeah, that's a big
pretty
deal.
high up
Yeah,
there.
that's kind of, I don't know if you can really top
a
that,
treasured
but
memory. Well, I mean, I have to sort of rewind to that, where I mean, we've had so many wonderful family memories, but when we were in Albania, we were invited by the then president and first lady for a lunch at their private residence. And this is when we had already adopted one of their citizens.
yes.
And we brought her along to the lunch, and we have a photo of her being held by the first lady of Albania and the president. And it really just struck me so much that this child, this baby, this infant that was in a children's home in their country is now being held in the arms of the president and the first lady of that country.
Wow.
And it was just a really remarkable moment, that, like, I still think about it and I'm just like, that's incredible. That really stands out to me.
I think that's
No, go ahead.
No, I just think that's like, that has such a blanket statement for adoption and what it can do. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
Places that these children like maybe have come from, and the wonderful places that they can go, and just it's just.
But
amazing.
It's true. I mean, you know, so many people have said, "Oh, she's so lucky," but really, we never look at it that way. I mean, we're the lucky ones.
Oh,
you know,
of course.
like it for us. It was a dream come true for sure.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I would say that's a powerful memory for us from our time in Albania.
That's really special.
And then, do I have any advice
or words of encouragement?
Or be patient.
That's good.
Be patient. Stay connected to the people who matter the most to you. Make an effort. It's hard, but that's also important. And I think when you live abroad, you have a choice. You can just sort of like hole up and just try to pass the time, you know, or you can take the world by your hands and your heart and say, I'm going to dive all in and experience everything I can and make a life for yourself in your home, in your new home country.
I love that.
That would be sort of my advice.
I love that. Like,
push yourself a little bit to do it. Yeah.
Push yourself. And you said dive in, and like that's something in the intro. I say to dive into the joys and challenges, because it's both.
There both, for sure.
Huge privileges that we like, things that you never thought, like the historical stuff. Like I was showing my son the other day, he was coloring a color by number, and he was like, this doesn't seem like the right color. I'm like, you're right, buddy, because it was the Tower of Pisa. I was like, that's not orange and red and brown. And I showed him a picture of me holding him when he was a baby in front. I was like, that's it right there. So you're right. And it's just like, I can't believe this, that I'm showing like you were there, you know? And so there's those things, and then there's the really hard things at the same time. So I like that, like that if you take a chance, you can have all of it.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, like I say, you either hop on the roller coaster ride or you sit and you're a bystander. And for me, I prefer to hop on and see where the ride will take me.
I love it. I love that. Well, Regan, thank you so much.
Thank
this was
you.
Really, I mean, I still have like tingling left from all the things. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Good luck in your upcoming move.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You guys, what an adventure Regan and her family have been on and will continue to go on in this roller coaster life, as she says. She actually sent me a text message shortly after leaving my house from recording this and said that she wanted to share what she actually feels like is the most treasured experience, but it's more of a collective of experiences. And that's that when you're an expat, you get the opportunity to come together in what she called a real actual United Nations and sit across from the table from people who are from all over the world. And we all come together and enjoy each other's company and learn from one another and share about our experiences. And getting to do that, making those friends, is truly incredible for her, and I cannot agree with her more. And I want to thank her for taking time out of her busy schedule to share her experiences with us. Regan and I happen to be in a book club together, and like she said, we sit across from the table from people that are from all over the world. And we laugh and we talk and we share our thoughts and opinions about what we've read. And so that leads me to today's Shan Select. In a French-speaking country, it can be challenging to find books when you are an Anglophone or native English speaker. And W.H. Smith & Son, or as it's currently now called, Smith & Son, is one place that I can go to find a plethora of books all written in English. From children's books to biographies to novels and young adult fiction, they pretty much have everything. Plus, they have British treats and food items you can buy and make at home, and a delicious cafe located on their second floor. If you live in Paris and haven't discovered it yet, don't miss out any longer and make sure you head to 248 Rue du Rivoli, or Rue de Rivoli, just a few doors down from the Place de Concorde metro stop. Grab a cup of coffee or a tea, settle in with a good book, and enjoy a piece of Parisian history that's been there since 1870. And you don't have to live there to visit. It's open to everyone. I will be sure to include the website in the show notes. And as always, I am not an affiliate, just a fan. That's it for today, everyone. Make sure you tune in next week when I share about some of my favorite foods that I have discovered or experienced since becoming an expat. And if all goes well, we might have a pretend cooking show episode on Instagram of one of those favorite foods. I'm super excited, you guys, but hang in there with me because I don't edit long-ish form video often, but it should be lots of fun, and you're going to walk away, regardless of whether you're a big cook or not, with a crowd pleaser recipe that anyone can make. Wishing you guys a wonderful rest of your week. Before you sign off, make sure that you share this episode or your favorite episode, which I'm curious to know which one is your favorite, with a friend. I'll meet you back here again next week. And until then, this is Chandra Alley reminding you to live and travel in the know with Expatriotical.